Newly released emails show Russian-linked hackers tried at least five times to access Clinton's private email server. It's unclear whether she clicked on any attachment or exposed her account. Joining us right now is strategist partner and head of policy research, Dan Clifton. Dan, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Maria.
How big of a deal is this?
Well, it just keeps getting bigger every day. This really started in June, and it just feels like drip, drip, drip. It just keeps dripping out. And we got to be careful here in interpreting this story, Maria, because first, we don't know if Russian hackers got in. She could probably make an argument that maybe her system didn't allow that to happen. But what we're starting to see is the case for having that private server is now being demolished in all these news stories that are coming out. And more specifically, just the threat of this happening shows how ill-advised this was. And I think what this is doing is it's just encouraging Joe Biden to consider getting in the race, because we don't know what else is out there. We got another 15,000 emails to go before the Iowa caucus.
Keith McCullough.
Does she just capitulate at some point, Dan? I mean, this is getting embarrassing at this point.
Well, I think that, you got to go through the 7 stages here, and we're starting to get there. We may be in stage 2 or 3 where you're recognizing that this is a problem. Then you got to see if you can determine it. But, at the end of the day, I think her problems are bigger than just what we're seeing in today's news.
Yeah.
The transmission of satellite spy images going through these unsecured email systems. I also think that she submitted a signature saying she submitted all of her emails. We found out on Friday night that they found emails that she hadn't submitted. That's a case of perjury. So, Keith, to your point, I do believe that she'll probably have to get out. But we probably have another 2 more months of this.
Hey, Dan, it's Sandra Smith. What kind of time frame are we looking at for a potential Biden run here? I mean, are we looking at days, weeks? He's at risk of being left off the ballot, right?
That's absolutely correct. If you look at Bill Clinton in 1992, he got in the race October 1st, 1991. That would be the equivalent of today. Wow. In this race, you cannot do that in this day and age because of infrastructure purposes. But, Sandra, you get right to the point. He's got to get on these state ballots. He's at risk of losing, participating in some of these states if he does not get in. So to answer your question directly, if he is going to get in, it's probably a matter of days before he gets in, and why this news is so important right ahead of it.
I think it was Julie Roginski in our last hour basically said he's missing the first Democratic debate. That's on October 13th, so he's going to miss that, okay, because it's Hillary and it's...
but they've said that day, on the day of the debate, he still has time to get in.
Okay, so October, we got 2 weeks before...
Does it matter? Isn't one of the big positives that he's just not part of the fray? Do you actually have to, and Dan, maybe this is a question for you.
Yep.
Logistically, do you have to be part of a debate to be a candidate? Can you just enter whenever you damn well want at this point because the field is so weak?
Well, no, I don't believe that to be the case, because this is going to be a real dogfight of a race. Yeah. She's got a base of 25-30%. Bernie's got a base of 20%. It's going to be a 3-way race if he gets in. He's not guaranteed to get it, assuming that she doesn't get out.
Yeah.
Now, let me make one more point. Bernie Sanders raised $25 million in the last quarter, so he's getting momentum from her weakness.
And by the way, it was CNN that reported that Joe Biden will miss the first debate, the first Democratic debate on October 13th. CNN is reporting that their Democratic sources are telling them that he has decided he's missing that first debate. So we'll see.
Gotcha. Look, but they would allow him in if he did.
Absolutely.
So
that's only the point I was making. Right. So, Dan, I think the biggest story of the day is what's going on in Syria right here. I mean, here comes Putin strong-arming Obama. We were there in the over Syria doing our own airstrikes against ISIS. Putin says, no. We want to team up with Assad. Get out of the way. We're still not sure if, in fact, they're targeting ISIS or targeting CIA-backed rebels who are against Assad. What's your take on this? What are you telling clients about this?
Well, we think that this is a really great risk. If you see that it's been escalating really since Putin went into Crimea, he keeps taking further steps. He sees U.S. weakness, and he can continue to push it. Conversely, he saw that Assad was on the verge of being thrown out, that he had to move quickly. He built his air bases in there, and I think that his actions are mostly motivated by trying to keep Assad in place, and that's why those attacks are not located around ISIS areas, but really around rebels that have been going after the government itself. And I think that there's really any chance of escalation seems to be on the bias towards greater escalation, because every time we talk to them about de-escalating, they seem to be escalating it. And I think that the markets are going to have to digest this over the next couple of weeks
now,
or so.
To be fair, we've got headlines here that say Russian Defense Ministry says targets for airstrike in Syria are on the basis of confirmed intelligence, and they have already hit 4 Islamic State targets in Syria overnight. But there's a debate on whether or not they're actually going after ISIS or if they're going after the people who are against Assad. Bottom line, does this mean oil prices go up, you guys?
I think so.
Putin needs oil up, Dan.
Well, I think domestically he needs to show he's a big player on the international stage to get his approval ratings up while he's in a recession.
Right.
Then he needs oil prices to go up. U.S. crude oil inventories are still at their highest level ever, and they're not getting worked down. So there's still some supply and demand issues around these geopolitical issues that need to be resolved.
That cocktail, you get that Syrian headline news with the Putin incentive combined with dollar down potentially, again on a bad jobs report, oil's going up.
Oil's going up. You wonder how high it can go and whether or not we're in for a whole new trade next couple of months. What does that do to things if oil starts going up?
That would be interesting to see the bulls pivot, because now they're saying, well, the market's going up because of low gas prices, Maria.
Dan, you working on that for your clients in terms of what you do now?
We are. So you'll start to see inflation expectations come up. I mean, it's unfair that oil's going up, but then it starts raising the prospect of the Fed having to raise rates faster than people expect.
All right, we'll be watching your reporting. Thank you so much, Dan.
Great. Thank you, Maria.
Good to see you. Dan Clifton, Strategist.